Hi, this is Dan Halsey again, and I'm here with Marc Beyrouthy from Lebanon. He is the advisor to the Minister of the Environment in Lebanon, and we're going to talk about climate and climate change as we continue this series of interviews through all the time zones across the globe for our global check-in for the Earth Repair Conference. Again, I'm Dan Halsey with United Designers and Southwoods Ecosystems. And hi, Marc, how are you this morning?
Hi, Daniel.
Good. Or morning here, I should say. It's after lunch there.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and to us and talk about climate change and adaptation. I think you have, and it was wonderful visits that I've had to Lebanon, and interesting to hear what your thoughts are. So we'll get right into it. Asking the first question we have is what the trends are in your area. What changes have you seen in climate and weather patterns in Lebanon?
Yeah, that's very interesting because, if you asked me this 5 years ago, people they don't want to even discuss climate change, in fact. So, but now, really, we can see very much difference if you want. First difference, I'll give you an example about the weather and another example about the cedars in Lebanon. So, for the weather, you cannot imagine how much it's changing. Like in Lebanon, you know the climate here. We used to have 4 different seasons, very obvious. Okay, you have really winter, then spring, then So now we don't know a little bit. We don't know seasons anymore. So now it's mid-April, and we still have rain, and it's really changing. Before this, it wasn't like this very clear. And even now, when it rains in Lebanon, we don't used to have so much heavy rain. So polite rain, if you want. We used to have polite rain, so it rains, it's good. Now, really, you have thunderstorms, you have big rain, you have powerful rain, you see if sometimes trees are fallen. This is something that we're not used to see. In fact, Lebanon is a very temperate climate. It's in the Mediterranean Sea. We don't have cyclones. We don't have all this. So it's really changing. You have sometimes even it's winter, you have 10 days of sun, and then you have very powerful rain. So this is something very obvious. Even, in Lebanon, we do believe a lot about the proverbs. The proverbs don't work anymore as they used to be, in fact. So I can give you examples, but it will take, yes. So, even sometimes landslides, now we have them. So mainly the farmers in Lebanon are suffering from this. And if we talk about the cedars, now what the cedars in Lebanon, because, we used to have cedars from 1,000 meter altitude till 2,100. Now it's a little bit changing also. There is many experts who came to Lebanon talking about the danger of climate change on the cedars, and Lebanon without the cedars won't be Lebanon anymore. Even there is an insect called there's an insect that is attacking these cedars. We didn't used to have this insect before, and the cedars are adapting by producing what we call bourgeons de secours. And it's changing everything we knew about the cedars. So many people are advocating and asking us to do something, against what we call climate change mitigation. And it's really changing. So the weather, you can even experts in Lebanon, like 5 or 10 years ago, if you say climate change, they will take you as an alien or as a nerd. Now people are saying that on the street, yes, the climate is changing.
Really? So are the trees going higher in elevation then with this change also?
Yes. So not only if you're talking about cedars, I'll give you an example. In Lebanon, we grow a lot of ornamental trees. You know that my family works in this. So you cannot imagine how many plants. We used to know that, for example, this plant, you cannot grow it on high altitude. Like, the grapes. Yes. In Lebanon, you have grapes till 1,400 meters. Now, even at almost 2,000 meter, you can have grapes.
Wow.
So it's yes. So some trees are going more in elevation. It's changing.
Mm-hmm. Is the physiology of the cedars changing with that? Is a sugar or something it must be producing?
Yes, we don't have, if you want, direct scientific evidence about this because we don't have data from before. In fact, this is also a problem. But we can see from the elevation that the cedars are taking. We can see from the insects that are attacking the cedars, and what we call the bourgeon de secours. In fact, it's like a bud that the cedars didn't used to produce before, and now they are producing it in a different season. And scientists are saying that this is because the cedars think they will die.
Oh, really? Wow.
And that's why they're trying to, produce what we call, I don't know the exact translation of this. It's like, bud for help or something. In fact, and even worse, that these buds are attacked by another insect.
Oh, wow. So that the tree is under a great amount of stress, it's changing its physiology, and then now it's even being attacked by something else.
Yes.
On that bud. So that doesn't make for a good future, it sounds like, for the
yeah, this is what we're that in science you cannot say it's like this 100% if you don't see it over a long time. Right. So it's really recent in Lebanon. So it's not something that we used to have before to tell you that we have evidence, scientific evidence about this. But a lot of people are talking about it, and even we have people from many French TVs or even from CNN that came to Lebanon to really talk about this on the media.
So what's the most important adaptation do you think that needs to happen generally across the region for this?
Yeah, the problem in Lebanon is you have to work a lot. In fact, like for example, we're a very small country, and we're becoming overpopulated. And all what comes with it, that in Lebanon we have 4 million Lebanese, but you have maybe more than this refugees, especially from Syria. And these people are sometimes they have to live. Sometimes they are cutting plants. Sometimes So this is a problem. So we have to respect more the trees. We have to have more nature reserves. We have to do a lot of reforestation efforts. We have to also work on lowering the CO2 and all the gas emissions. Lebanon, it's very beautiful when you start to climb in the mountains, but when you're in the coast, you know how it's crowded, overpopulated, cars.
Yes.
So it's you cannot do just one thing. It's like, it's a whole system that we need to change.
Is there any government policy changes you see coming for this?
Yes, now I'm talking as your friend, not as an advisor. Okay. Yes, in fact, there is a policy. We have a very efficient Ministry of Environment, but the problem is in Lebanon are not laws and policies, the application of these laws. This is the problem. And the Ministry of Environment, for example, in Lebanon can talk and has like advisory if you want things to do and to say about mainly anything, but we don't have, for example, environmental police. We have to rely on the police to do what we want. And in a country that, we had war before, we have now the Syrian refugees, our priorities are not the environment and the climate. This is also the problem.
I see. Right. Yeah. So enforcement and implementation of those policies can be very difficult. And you have so many other things going on.
Yes. For me, what we need to do, because we're very good on having laws, but we are very bad in enforcement of these laws and in application and applicating these laws. So this is the problem. But also in Lebanon, the civil society is very strong. And you cannot imagine how many NGOs and how many good ideas and people are having many good ideas in order to have less and less problems, especially mitigation due to climate change.
So with the change in the climate, and then like you say, the inundation of rain, the amount of rain, and when that's coming, and I know that, it's a very hilly land, and so like you say, landslides, flooding, things like that. So what do you think is needed in Lebanon to avoid a tragedy, the climate tragedy that is the potential for the rest of the world also?
One is awareness, and so people, and especially the decision makers, start to be aware that this is really happening. This is a reality. It's not something that you hear about in the media. Just to tell you, you know that I have my own TV also program, and we are now climate change champions in Lebanon for 2018. And while I was preparing for this award, I was reading about many things concerning climate change. One thing I was shocked about is that I found an article comparing that in, for example, USA or even in Europe, how many times people talk about climate change in the news, and it's an amazing article I can send you. Whenever even if you are in USA, in Europe, people don't talk about climate change, and even if they talk about this, it's not something. It's not like a reportage directly tackling climate change. They will talk something about for the environment in general, and then they will say a word about climate change. So for me, the first thing, I will send you this article if I have time. For me, the first thing people should really do is starting to be aware that climate change is happening, it's here, and it's reality. So this is one. And I don't want to also talk politics, but for example, if you hear what, for example, the European news and even in Lebanon say about President Trump policy, he doesn't believe in climate change. So people in Lebanon will say, if we work in order to have less effect on the climate change, but we are a very small country, we don't even pollute. The big polluters doesn't want to do anything. So why you want to talk with us about this? So this is also the problem. So first thing to do is really awareness for me, and this is important.
Kind of finding out the truth of what's actually happening and make people aware.
And also, when I was preparing this for this ceremony, also they taught people people who work on news on TVs how really to start talking about climate change, because sometimes they talk about it in a very boring way. And they don't relate it directly to personal stories or to people. And this is what we should do. We should really show more and more people or businesses of people or farmers that are affected by climate change, and to tell these stories so people in cities all around the world start to be aware of this. Because if you don't relate it to people and to their tragedy, you won't change anything.
Right. People aren't going to act unless they're very much motivated to do something in that end.
Yes.
Right.
And we should really make it a trend, all these challenges we have on Facebook, the water bucket and whatever, and those very sometimes shallow stuff. So if we can try to also make this stuff, but on things that matters, it will be also more important.
Right. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you setting some time aside for us. And it's really great to see you again and to talk to you. And I hope to keep checking with you again and when things are happening, when there's news in Lebanon, especially for climate change and the adaptation going on there.
Yeah, just let me tell you something. In Lebanon, the Ministry of Environment with UNDP Lebanon, they are nominating each year 10 companies or universities or whatever, and they're calling them climate change champions. So it's also something amazing that it's happening. And they do believe that, if you work in Lebanon with the government, maybe things will be very slow. However, if you work with private companies, if you, for example, the CEO of a very large corporation is environmentally aware, and he will start to, inside his firm, adapting these laws, things will change. And this is what this program is about. So these champions, each year we have 10 that are really taking the drastic measures in order to, in their companies, make the change. And to let people also change their behaviors.
That's a great motivation, because you're actually giving a good reinforcing affirmation to the corporations doing that, which
Yes.
that's what they love. That's everybody wants publicity. So
Yes, yes. So because they love it, and
yeah.
you work like they do, so you give them incentives, and they will start to, it's in many times you have people jealous from other people. If you also work on this, and you let people to be jealous, but for something good to do good. For example, if this company will market itself as green, another competitor will say, "Ah, no, I want this also." And then they will be obliged to make this change. And this is also a way to let things go faster.
Right. And then they're on the front end, and people will notice
Yes,
and
of
adapt
course.
it to their own life too. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But when is that happening?
Each year, it's started from 5 years. And
Okay.
each year we have 10 new champions.
When's the next one?
I think in May.
In
I
May?
can make sure, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And is
Yeah.
that televised also?
And what?
Is it on the television, the TV?
Yes, yes. They make a big conference, but in
Oh.
order to do champion, you have to write a document. I can send you this document so you can see what. So they will say that, for example, for the 5 coming years, we will work on this, this, and this, and then the UNDP and the ministry will make more than 10 conferences with people from this organization to make sure that they are doing it. And then after 1 year, they are nominated champions. And the second year, they come to also motivate other people. It's a program.
Right. Well, I'll attach those documents with this video so people can see that
Of course.
information also. That would be wonderful. And to put
Yes, I'll send them to you.
all right. Well, thank you, Marc. I appreciate that. This is Marc Beyrouthy, the advisor to the Minister of the Environment of Lebanon. And wonderful to talk to you again. Thank you.
Bye, Dan.
Bye-bye.